It's very moody. Starting the recording, starting this whole Q&A. The musical stylings of Theo and Maximilian Aoki. Jessica, you're going to have to mute your camera there. Oh, there you go. Perfect. And thank you for coming to the Q&A for Things I Do for Money. My name's Warren Sonoda. I was the director, but I was also the witness and #1 fan of Max and Theo Aoki as they made their debut screen, sort of ushering in themselves as both movie stars and music composers. We're thrilled to be here with McMaster University and being asked to do a special Q&A with the students. I'm gonna introduce Rachel Nelson from the Student Success Center. You got the best music to come in here. Say hi to everybody, Rachel.
Hi, everyone. As you mentioned, I work in the Student Success Center as one of the events and communication specialists. I just want to thank you all for joining us tonight for the Q&A. I know it's a Friday night, so I think it's awesome that you decided to spend some time with us. I hope everyone has had a chance to view the film at this point. I watched it today and I thought it was fantastic. I really didn't have any expectations going into it, but I was really impressed. So I just wanted to start by congratulating the whole Things I Do for Money team on creating such a fun and exciting film. As many of you know, Theodore and Maximilian are currently engineering students at McMaster, and they had the lead roles in the film. And when our office found out about the movie and their involvement, we knew we wanted to support this initiative in some way and highlight their great accomplishment and also share it with other McMaster students and staff. We originally hoped to be viewing this with all of you at the Westdale Theater, but unfortunately we had to adjust our plans a bit, but we are gonna make the best.
Why, Rachel, why do we have to adjust our plans? We should, oh yeah.
Let's go anyway. But we're gonna make the most of tonight and we're gonna have a great time anyways. So on behalf of our office and McMaster, I just want to congratulate Maximilian and Theodore on their success and with Virtuoso and this film. We think it's amazing that you've been able to balance this film with schooling and all of your other commitments. And I'd like to pass it back over to Warren to start everything.
Thank you so much. And yeah, we did have to pivot. I mean, I think obviously the world it was Friday, the 13th of March, when everybody sort of woke up to a new sort of paradigm. We were going to release this movie in 9 Canadian cities on April 8th, starting at the Westdale in Hamilton. So just to put it in perspective, because I know there's not, I usually talk to film students when I do these types of things, but for a small little $160,000 independent film to get 9 theatrical cities to show the movie, that was pretty significant. And we were very excited about it. We had Young Dundas in Toronto that was going to premiere the movie. We had Calgary, we had Hamilton. But then we figured out there were more important things to care about and worry about. And obviously COVID-19 changed everyone's plans. The brutal murder of George Floyd on May 25th also put into a pretty good focus for us as a filmmaking team that our world is much bigger than, you know, these little movies we want to make, these little stories we want to tell. We started to do the hard work and then inward thinking of, you know, what it means to be BIPOC filmmakers and to support our Black and Indigenous colleagues as they tell their stories and also live their lives. So it's been the most intense time, the most harrowing time, I think a painful time for a lot of us. But as we're moving through this now, we're finding, and as we release the movie, it's also time to sort of celebrate storytelling and celebrate stories that might be a little different than others. So for those of you that have been able to watch it tonight and you know, see what the movie is, it's the first movie written and directed by a Japanese filmmaker, starring 4 Japanese Canadians, to be sold to the United States of America and to be sold in Canada. So it's a dubious honor. It's a historic honor. It's a dubious honor because I wish we were the 20th or 30th, and we have much more work to do in that regard. But to be able to kind of start talking about it, especially with students, I think is pretty important, because we'd love to know what you thought and start formulating some questions that you might have. But mostly, I just want to start by talking with Max and Theo, the stars of Things I Do for Money. How are you two doing?
Oh, really, really, really honored to be here right now and kind
You're
of
so matchy. It's great. We all
look at this.
We all got the memo to where
Wasabi
something
Journey.
represent. Okay, so can you introduce yourselves to the group? Most people will know you. Some of your friends are on this as well, but just maybe say a little bit about yourselves and how you got involved with this, because it is a story. Gina, we were talking in the preamble about telling the story of how you got involved, and it's pretty Hamilton. Like, when you think of a good Hamilton story, it's a pretty good Hamilton story.
Yeah, start us off, man.
All right, so I'm Theo Aoki, going to third year computer engineering at Mac. And Max, why don't you introduce yourself first before we get into the...
Yeah, sounds good. My name is Maximilian Aoki. I'm going into my 5th year now of Mechanical Engineering Society at McMaster.
Okay.
But we made this 2 years ago when you were basically Theo's age.
And Theo hadn't even come to McMaster yet, right?
Right.
It was a summer.
Yes.
Grade 12 for you.
So you were 7 years old and 8 years old 2 years ago, and we started making this movie. Okay, so how did you get involved with this this crazy enterprise?
So we started filming 2 years ago, but it was really 4 years ago that this whole thing sort of got in motion. Because Max, when was Counting Stars?
We released Counting Stars, I think, when we legitimately were around 8 or 9. We looked 8 or 9, or at least. So that must have been 2016, 2015.
So 2015, we released Counting Stars as a music video because me and Max were also part of Virtuoso, which is our sort of 2 cellos ensemble. We play around. You've probably seen us at McMaster. A lot of you guys have seen us at McMaster.
Or winning a CBC national contest.
Sure.
Or As It Happens.
We do try
a
our
little
best.
film, Things I Do for Money.
Yeah.
And we were watching it, like get some pretty good views, and then one day this comment shows up. It says, "Hey guys, love this music video, signed WPS." We're like, "Oh, who's this?" So we look it up. We find out it's the one and only Warren Sonoda, the great Canadian director. And we're like, "Oh man, this is big news." And
actually that's when we went like back to school and said, "Hey, guess who commented on our video? Like, check this out. It's Warren Sonoda."
And everyone was like, "Who?" Wayne Sonoma? William Sonoma. I shopped there. Yeah, it's a good store.
But you have some very big accolades, Warren.
I've done a couple things, but what I was really impressed with was just, I mean, even though it was a cover of a song, you were able to put your own sort of spin on it, and just visually, you really made an interesting a video, and it was just one of those things where it was like, that's cool. I thought it was cool, and then I ghosted you.
Yeah, because I think we even got an email from you saying, "Guys, this is really cool, fantastic. We'd love to get in touch and work on something." And we're like, "Great! Like that's super exciting." And then just wait for a week, and then 2 weeks, and then a month. It's like, he'll get back to us eventually. Don't worry. Like, hopes are high. And it's like 5 months later, 6 months later, 2 years later though, we get an email from Warren. As long as it came back, right? it's not a ghost.
I came back with a full feature film script written for you two, though, so I made up for those 2 years. But I did know you through basically your mom knew my co-writing partner Gary Nolan, because they're both teachers at Delta, and Gary and I have been writing for years, and he was the one that said, "Hey, you should really check out these 2 kids. They're pretty phenomenal." And at the time, you were basically kids. You were just kind of starting out and putting stuff together, and that's when I kind of just on my radar kind of thought about you. So
yeah, and then
what
we had so then we had another email. That's 2 years later now, saying sort of it's from Warren, from you, and is CC'd with Gary and my brother and myself. And you were pretty much saying, we have an idea for a project. We would love to talk to you guys. How about we meet up at Starbucks? So then it was Warren, Gary, myself, my brother. our mom came as our agent because you know,
Yeah,
she got to get on the action.
our mom was a little shook by what she was looking up all your trailers. I think she just happened to look up like the Todd and the Pure Book of Evil.
Right.
Yeah.
Or Trailer Park Boys or Swearnet.
I think she was a little bit sussed out. She was like, oh, like what kind of characters are you gonna play? Like,
Right.
is he gonna corrupt you?
Right. Hey, at least we asked your mom to come. I mean, you know, we wanted we wanted your family to believe in what you were doing, and we knew that it was going to be you didn't know it was going to be such a big commitment, but I knew it was going to be basically your summer of 2018 that you were going to give up.
Well, I remember too when we were at the Starbucks and we were talking about the idea of the script and your idea of, you know, making a story, a full-length feature film story about, you know, these Japanese Canadian brothers that are in Hamilton that played cello and surrounded by this crime mob from Hamilton. I remember you saying like this would be the most work you've ever put into something in your lives, and then all we heard was like, oh, star in a movie. Yeah, no worries. Like that's fine. So that's fine. And I think we just kind of like in one ear out the other forever.
Or you thought, oh yeah, we've worked hard before. This is gonna be
We've done music videos before.
We're world-class cellists. Like, don't tell me about hard work.
Absolutely. And then, you know, then emails start coming in and meetings start coming in and we're doing auditions, sort of pseudo auditions for the parts. And then being
at that meeting, and the reason why we had that meeting was Gary and I, unbeknownst to you, the summer before in 2017. So Things I Do for Money is my 11th feature film, and of the 10 features that came before that, Gary and I have been writing for like 20 years together. I met him at the Hamilton downtown Keg. I went to Hill Park as a student. He was a young teacher there, and we just became fast friends. And we wrote we've written over a dozen scripts together, but none of them had been produced. So I just felt bad by this time. I've been friends with this guy for 20 years. We haven't made a movie. We kept writing these scripts. None of them were able to get past the finish line. So in the fall of 2017, I was doing This Hour's 22 Minutes in Halifax. He flew out there for like a week or two, and we just started writing. And we wanted to write something that we were just going to make the next summer, and something small, you know, something that was manageable, 1 or 2 locations, you know, 5 people in a farmhouse horror movie, you know, the sort of typical indie movie that you can make at a very low budget. And everything we were writing during that time was just utter shit. It was just awful. It was like, it was just all the stuff that you've seen before. And what we really were trying to do was something cool. And we kept coming back to the Versacello video that I saw. And I'm like, what about those 2 kids? And Gary's like, well, what about them? I'm like, what if Max and Theo were cello-playing brothers from Hamilton? And he was like, okay. And then we started just brainstorming. It was like, what if they stole a bag of money? And it just kind of started with this what if game of, you know, what can we do to tell an interesting story, weave in what we wanted to tell about Hamilton. And then halfway through all this process, we actually broke the story. We outlined it. We had a treatment. And then I turned to Gary and I'm like, can Max and Theo act? Can they even, like, do they act? Have they ever acted before? Would they even want to do this? And that's why that Starbucks meeting happened early in 2018, because we couldn't work any more on this without getting you two to sign off on it. Because, like, I know no other Japanese Canadian cello playing brothers from Hamilton that we could have given the roles to. So that was a big thing. I was like, you had to audition for this role, right? How did that feel?
Yeah.
What was going through? Like, you've never acted before, and suddenly you had to audition. Can you remember the process of what you had to go through?
It was first off like super out there because we're cello players, and you know when you're playing cello, you're practicing cello, you're doing your scales. You don't think, oh, I got to do these scales so that one day I can star in a movie. So the acting chops were definitely a little rusty.
Right.
But we kind of approached it the way we did any sort of cello performance. We had the bassist, we had like the song we had to cover, and we knew what was going on. And
the script, basically, you had the script, right? That's what you're saying. Yeah.
And we just like worked through it. Me and Max. It was a little bit different than music because it was more like moving around, speaking, getting the right tones. But it was a lot of just practicing performance the way we usually do.
Well, it was fun too because it was about a 1-pager or a 2-pager. Not too much to memorize, but enough to kind of have different sort of tonalities. I remember in the scripts, and I think part of it kind of called for. Oh, this is our tape. This is a real. Oh my god!
Do you remember?
No, you're so young. Oh no! Look at my push.
No, fucking move, man.
Wow.
I let you down? Welcome to the club. What are you talking about? Without me, you don't make money. You don't play music. You don't do shit. We don't play music anymore. Plus, you don't broil industry. You think you know everything, but you don't.
There you go, boys. This is what you got you on the big screen. I still have it on my
haven't
iPhone.
seen that for 2 years. Oh,
No one's seen it. This is exclusive to McMaster University only.
Warren, I'm so flustered now. I don't know how to carry on.
But it was 3 minutes and 40 seconds. That's a big scene for you. That's like probably 4 or 5 pages of dialogue.
I remember too. We were kind of in the middle of this whole thing. I had to pin him down and then just throw it off, and we had this one silent stare at each other while Peter dives into a monologue. And I remember, like, we're talking and we're being very, very serious, but very nervous because we're first time that we're really talking to you guys about this project. Right. And your iPhone, as you're just making sure that we can act in front of the camera, is just slowly getting closer and closer to our face until it's just literally right there. And I'm trying my best not to laugh.
Yeah. and we like, this was not really, it was kind of bits and pieces of the movie put into a little scene. But the reason why we wanted you to push each other was because we've never seen you be physically abusive to each other as brothers, which is odd because usually brothers are at each other's throats, right? Like, but you two are so loving that Gary and I kind of purposely wrote a scene to see if you could kind of go there. So after auditioning and after getting it, what was the next thing that went through your mind? Because this was now leading up to the summer of 2018, and you were going to McMaster Engineering. But then when did it dawn on you that the work going into the movie was going to be more than anything you've ever experienced in your life?
Okay, so I know that it was around like February and March. We were kind of doing that whole preparing for the like pseudo audition. By the time that rolled around and the next steps were then going to be talking about assembling the crew and assembling locations and kind of seeing this thing grow. I think that was the point before we even knew if we were going to make a movie that I started telling all my friends, like, hey, I'm going to be in a movie, just so everybody knows. And there was no green light whatsoever.
They're thinking it's like a YouTube thing, right?
Oh, and I was like, when we talked to people about the movie, we were like, we're going to be in a movie. And then like 2 weeks later, we're like, great, where can we see it now? I was like, no, it's like a movie. It's like, that's awesome. Where is it out? YouTube? Like, can we watch that now?
Right.
But leading up to January, I remember it's January 1st that we got the call from you saying that we have an official green light on this project. Mm-hmm. And we were already kind of like, envisioning our lives as like jet setting actors and go around and do travel and crazy scenes and all that kind of stuff.
But in Hamilton.
all in Hamilton, all the way up to James Street and back. But it was a lot of kind of like intense preparation for that, just in case it's going to start. So we started like pulling out the cello songs and started pulling out, just remembering how to play together very well again. Because how the heck we're going to act.
You had to have music ready for the movie to perform in the movie. And for those of you that don't know, I do a lot of music videos, and basically we play the song that the artist have created, and they just kind of they don't lip sync, but they play they do lip sync, but they play their instruments. And in Max and Theo's cases, they would basically play the cello to a playback track. But all that music had to have been written before we went camera, and you guys had like what, a month, 1 or 2 months to get that done?
Yeah, it was for like six tracks for in like 1 month, right?
And one of those 6 tracks was Monument. And I don't know how many people have seen the movie on this Zoom so far, but that's the main song at the end of the movie. And
not only that, they were not only writing the songs. I was making them do things like little promo videos for the Indiegogo at the same time. So we would be filming these things to help promote the movie, and also to get them ready to, be in front of cameras and whatnot. But yeah, it was that was a tough. That was probably the moment you both were like, "Whoa."
Yeah.
There's a question, a good one from Sobia, in terms of, do you guys ever fight? Do you ever fight, and like, how do you deal with it while you were shooting, if you were fighting over anything?
Theodore, I'll let you answer that one, but answer carefully because I'm in the room beside you guys. I'll just give you a 1-2 real quick. Eh?
We don't usually fight. We get along like pretty well because we're like sort of like the same paths. We have like the same sort of vision at each other. But whenever we do get in disagreement, it's almost always while we're playing cello. Like we each know each other's buttons to press while playing. Like Max knows for me, if he says anything about me being out of tune.
This will be us in the practice room right here.
Yeah, so basically, Theo would be watching Max all the time.
And we're doing like these desk layers to each other. Now, we've been playing for about 5 years together now, 6 years now. And two nice things about being brothers and playing is that one, we're how we live together, and we're always around each other. So anytime that we're going to be practicing, we're practicing together. And if we're bored, it's just kind of like, hey, you want to just throw down some Michael Jackson? And be like, sure, like, okay, let's do it. But two, we can be very, very honest with each other. And in the kind of business of music, it's to achieve that kind of intensity, and especially the kind you need to be on screen, you need to be in very, very close proximity emotionally to the person you're playing with, especially when it's a duet. And we have no problem, I wouldn't say yelling at each other about that, but being very open about that. So very constructive fighting, I'd say.
And it's not just you two in this movie. Your mom, Alicia, was behind the scenes. She was there almost every day of the shoot, helping out, driving you with your cellos to the different locations.
Our house is in there. The one location.
Yes, the house where the violinists and cellists get their arms broken is the Aoki's house in downtown Hamilton. It
makes it look so dynamic.
Yes, we voluntold them that we needed to shoot at their house one day, so we just kind of showed up and shoot that scene. But your dad plays just Jimmy, which is actually not your father in the movie, but your uncle. And we've been doing a couple of these Zooms, and Ed's been on them and he's been talking about it. But what was it like working with your dad on a movie? Did you ever think you were going to do that? And once you started doing it, what was it actually like to work like that? Because you both kind of had these pretty intense scenes with your dad.
I can start with that one because before our dad even came onto the project, I had some scenes that I needed to work on with Rhett Morita, who was the actor who played my dad on screen, Tosh Yaguchi. And so our father in real life would stand in for Rhett, and then we'd practice back and forth. And the scene was like, I come back to the house after a long night of partying and being out super late, and he's saying like, no more bar. And I'm shooting right back saying like, that's my job to be there. And we're getting really heated. And our dad is a very, he can express emotions very well and likes to kind of get caught up in the action and really play the part. So we're just acting, yelling at each other and just kind of getting ourselves riled up. He was so excited to come onto the role as just Jimmy. Part of the reason being that Jimmy is a hitman from Vancouver, which is, I think, a role that anyone would like to play, I'm sure. What was it like? How did you practice?
It was fun working with our dad. Because me and my brother are always.
This is his audition tape that, and your mom standing in for Jennifer Walton, who played Mary, but.
How was the flight?
Small talk. All right. I can do small talk. Hamilton's nice. The flight was good. It's easy if you travel light.
Doesn't he look like he could be a hitman from Vancouver?
Kinda.
He's got the arms.
I made him take his glasses off though, because before that he kind of looked like a librarian from Vancouver. But so sorry I interrupted. But you were working with your dad to audition, and he suddenly got the part. So
Yeah.
Were you helping him?
Oh, he was dedicated. Tell him the story.
There's so many times that we would run scenes together, but like sometimes me and Max would be running scenes separately or like for one of our parts. But no matter what, our dad would always be in the basement yelling his lines at the dryer.
Yeah,
That was his acting spot.
That was the acting spot, the drying. So
you can find him down there anytime. For sure.
So yeah, our dryer was scared. We were scared.
It was dedication though. It was every single day.
It was every single day for hours on end. Just sitting down in the basement. And our basement's not finished at all, so it must have been kind of uncomfortable for him, but he pulled through.
We should have.
I think it turned out well on screen.
I'm sorry if I get this wrong. Kishida, is that Kishida? Why don't you turn your microphone on? Ask this question live.
That's correct.
What's up, Kishida?
Yeah. So my question is, which maybe a lot of people are curious about this. Why didn't Ed just play their dad? Why was he the uncle?
Should I?
Yeah, go for it.
I will answer for our dad, even though he's not here to answer for it. I know the answer. It's because the dad is a fantastic character, and he's involved in the construction company, and very kind of like embodies the more like mild-mannered characteristics that Eli has. And even a little side point here, you'll see a parallel between the brothers Eli and Nick, and then Tosh and just Jimmy as the older generation. But I would almost say that just Jimmy, our uncle, is the very, very extreme version of the Nick character, in that he's all over the place and super eccentric and super gruff and
bit of a badass.
A little bit of a badass.
And your dad fancied himself a badass.
He did in fact fancy himself a badass, and he was ready for that full on.
And also Kishida, when we were casting the movie, and one of the reasons why people like their dad Ed, and also Rhett Morita. So Rhett Morita, who plays Tosh, who plays their dad in the movie, he's not an actor either, but he's an accomplished cinematographer. I mean, he's shot music videos, TV shows. He did the movie Ruby Sparks. He's a veteran director of photography, but he's never acted before.
Yeah.
But basically, he saw a post on my Facebook, and it was a bit of a panic post going, looking for older Japanese Canadian non-union actors for feature film help. And he
in like 2 weeks, right?
Yeah. And he basically messaged back, is like, dude, I know what this means. You're not going to find this person, because like if they're any good as an actor, they're probably going to be union, right? Because they're going to want to be working. And then secondly, the Japanese Canadian community is small to begin with, and we really don't think acting is a viable path to any sort of success. So we gladly took up his offer to audition, and it was just sort of like, you kind of know when the actor comes in where they're going to fit in the story. And definitely Tosh had, like Max was saying, he had that sensibility that Eli did, the sort of empathy and trying to be polite and try to do the right thing. Whereas Max's character, Nick, is kind of the fuck up, and he kind of like, is all over the place and is typecasting, stereotyping. But I think we put the right actors in the right roles.
For sure. I just want to say, this is really well done. Just Jimmy was the real hero of the movie, and I did not see that coming. I was like, what? It was amazing. It was great. Yeah,
we wanted to really turn things on its head, right? The people that come in, you don't expect to do the things that they do. I thought it was just interesting that we had the whole family in the movie. I didn't expect that. We knew Max and Theo were going to be integral to the film, but Ed and Rhett both became incredibly integral to what we were trying to tell, because it really was a story of two brothers. When you really look at it, it's
Yeah.
two brothers, Max and Theo playing Eli and Nick, going down this road where if they don't play their cellos right, they could end up like Tosh and just Jimmy, estranged, haven't talked to each other in 10 years. Something bad happened between them, much like what's going on in Hamilton here happened in Vancouver, right? So, but I appreciate the question. Mike, it looks like you want to
Thank you for letting me know.
No, for sure. Mike, it looks like you want to type something, but like, you want us to turn on your mic and say something to us?
I think it'll be easier if I just say it because making me reword it. Doesn't make any sense.
No, this is why we're doing it live.
We really enjoyed the movie too.
Yeah.
And we're impressed by how many Hamilton references were throughout. So obviously, like, it was fun to watch all the different areas, and we were trying to recognize where it was where. But also, it's not collective arts, and we heard the Arkells, and it seemed like a bit of an homage to Hamilton. So we just wanted to know if that was sort of on purpose, or it was just because you were filming it here and all that kind of stuff just snuck into the movie.
100%, everything in the movie is on purpose. I mean, you really can't put a price tag on how much Hamilton's a character in the movie. And like, obviously, Max and Theo live in Hamilton right now. I was born in Hamilton. I was born on the mountain, or I was born at St. Joe's, but I grew up on the mountain. I went to Hill Park and also Sherwood. Linden Park, which is being demolished right now, was my grade school, right? So I'm an uptown kid. But whenever I traveled downtown, I worked at the Keg at 33 Bowen before it closed. So I would go downtown all the time. And like, as a kid, I knew not really to go to the Northeast End too much. And that's kind of where our story takes place, is the Northeast End of Hamilton, DeFasco, Burlington Street, Kenilworth Avenue, the Turcotte pharmacies right on Kenilworth. We wanted to make a love letter. Now it's a bit twisted, right? Because it is a crime movie, so it's not like we're making Hamilton look like Venice or anything. We're showing Hamilton for what it really is, which is a city in the flux of change. It is really changing from this sort of Stelco, DeFasco, working class. My dad worked for the city when I was growing up, so my mom was kind of worked in a doctor's office, but she basically raised 3 kids. That sort of salt of the earth family dynamic has changed now, and Hamilton's trying to reinvent itself as a medical and research hub and an educational hub with McMaster, right? And with that comes the creative class, comes the chefs and the artists and the cello-playing brothers and people that are in the arts. So we wanted to make the story reflective of the Hamilton that's today, based on the Hamilton that I remember growing up as a kid, right? So, summer classes, we shot at, oh my gosh, what's the skating rink it's the only figure skating rink on the mountain. Do you know?
Yeah, Dave Anderchuk. Yeah,
the Anderchuk
skated there. They all learned to skate there.
Right, because every other ice rink has boards, right? Because it's for hockey. But it was important for us to have this whole figure skating subplot, and Yodit Tuideris, who plays Laura, did an amazing job playing Laura and being a figure skater. We found the one rink that had no boards. So Granddad's Donuts, and then also all the interior shots at the summer school, like the classes in the music class, that was at the Hamilton Japanese Cultural Center. And the Cultural Center in Hamilton really, like April and Chris, who helps facilitate everything, they opened the doors to our productions. We did our rehearsals there. We shot all the scenes of the music class there. We got some of their people to be in it. And certainly as we're rolling this out, we're going to be doing a special sort of Zoom watch party too. But it was a very deliberate thing. True Hamiltonian also came on board, along with Collective Arts, Brewery, and Cake and Loaf, which not only gave us their van to shoot in, they gave us some very tasty things to eat in the morning. And literally, that was my wife, Jen, who was a producer, walked over to the van and said, "Hey, we need a getaway van for a movie. Do you think we can use your your van for an undercover cop van?" And they're like, "Okay." And like, that was kind of it. They gave us the keys to the van. We went out, we shot the scene. I mean, they were very trusting, but I think Hamilton just sort of was ready for a movie like this, was ready for a team to come in that kind of, not all of us knew what we were doing, but we certainly had the passion to try to pull it off. So yeah, they totally embraced us. But yeah, good on you for seeing all the different places around town. We definitely wanted to, and yeah, so True Hamiltonian, there's a billboard by one of the car care centers down in the East End, and we put their billboard up digitally, and also it's on the bag, the beige bag that has the money in it is a True Hamiltonian bag. So there's all these different things that we wanted to put in there, but Hamilton plays a huge part. Again, if anybody does have a question, just turn your microphone on. It feels like we won't be talking over each other, but Michelle, maybe you have a question, because you just finished it right before we started this, right? Oh, you have to just unmute yourself there so we can hear you. Yeah. There you go.
Well, I have lots of questions. One, just in awe of the music. I absolutely love cello music, and I just love the whole score. So it's astonishing to learn that you did that in a month. Can you talk a little bit about how you, I don't know, like start to think about a music score and just the process of writing music, if you can? I'm curious, because it was so perfect for your scenes.
Max, go ahead.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I'll start with that one. The music scoring definitely started with the two cellos pieces that we were going to play on screen, and definitely the most fun to score was the monument piece, which is at the very end of the film, because we were given the script throughout this whole process. We were kind of given more and more kind of material to work with for the music, and eventually we had this full 150, 200 page script to just go through and kind of.
Okay, it was 102 pages. Don't embellish, man. I was responsible, right? Yes. For you, it felt like 500 for sure.
It was like,
because each page had a cello piece on it, basically.
Wow.
So.
True. And for the final kind of climax of the movie, there's 5 or 6 pages of and it says at the beginning, cello performance starts here. And then you kind of read through the script and you see all the different lines and all the different actions. And then, flip, boom, 6-page cello performance ends here. And we were originally going to play the Vivaldi double cello concerto for that placement of music, which is a beautiful piece. And every single cellist that plays would know it. It's the classic. It didn't fit quite as well as we would have liked for all the intensity going on behind a crime drama.
It's a classic in the way that a Chevrolet is a classic car. And
it's true.
we really wanted
a Porsche
or a Lamborghini, right? We wanted.
No disrespect to Antonio.
yeah, Antonio's great too. And so we kind of started by, okay, well, honestly, we have a whole bunch of ideas just generally on our phone, on voice memo, to kind of sift through for big projects like that, because I don't think we were going to be able to just think up 5 minutes at a time. So just kind of scroll, find something that works, and then embellish it into a theme, and then make that theme, take it like the theme, make a B theme, and then find a way to transition into your theme 3. And we knew that the beginning was going to have to be a very strong melody to sort of kind of bring everything just to life in the first 20 seconds. So we just walked around the neighborhood every day and kind of hummed to ourselves and be like, what's a cool thing to do?
And we kind of knew we wanted a symphony form too, right?
We did know we wanted symphony form. So it starts with...
We started with like the A theme. We sort of like linger on that for a little bit, and we knew we wanted to come back to that at the end to sort of like wrap it all up. So it was basically that, then getting like the B theme was another session.
But the B theme was a cat and mouse theme. We called it cat and mouse. All these things had really weird names throughout because we knew that, quick little spoiler alert, Mary needed to go and find Tosh. And it was very much kind of like where is this missing man? We got to find it. It's cat and mouse. And so we all just quiet down, and it's like this interplay between two cellos so that she can go off and do that. But then the theme comes back in when he gets found. And then we go into the next theme and transition when, you know, is to chase up the mountain. And we have to match the tone of the script every single step of the way until we get to the very final, almost the end of the song, the climax of the song, which we called the Achilles heel. And Theo, talk about the Achilles heel for a second.
The Achilles heel. I don't remember exactly how the idea came about, but when it started off, the Achilles heel is the part that's like the arpeggios going up and down. It's like
basically it was the problem that Eli had with the piece of music until he repaired the relationship with his brother. I mean, narratively, we basically said you have to overcome something in the music that's bugging you because your brother's basically leaving you behind, and you feel betrayed, you feel left back, and it's affecting the way that Eli's supposed to be playing. And because of that, Theo wrote the most complicated thing you could probably play on a cello.
And Theo, that Achilles heel part, how hard is it?
We when we wrote it down an octave. And
yeah, it was playable like at the very base of cello, where you would imagine you were playing the cello usually, right? And even then, it's very quick.
It's very quick, but like it's doable. But then we're like, hey, we gotta amp up the intensity a little bit. Let's put it up an octave. And it turns out when you do that, it becomes impossible.
But I think it was impossible, right?
I think I've practiced it.
I love the shots of your fingers trying to do that. It was very well done. It was hard. It was really hard, and you were. So it achieved the goal. It was really well done.
I'm glad that came across because I think I've practiced it for about like 48 hours straight at this point.
Wow.
48 hours like total, like since 2 years ago, right?
Since
you logged 48 hours of it. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think I've ever perfected it yet.
Yeah.
And basically the whole idea for this movie is we wanted to make, you know, it's low budget, it's a passion project, but we wanted to make a definitive cello music movie that other cello players would watch and go, that's real. And it just so happened Netflix released a cello movie recently while we were finishing ours.
Oh, they did. Oh god.
And I remember Max texting me and like, you know, no disrespect to other people's work, but
no disrespect at all, for sure.
When you see Max and Theo play the music in this movie, you know that they're actually playing the music. There's not a stunt hand double for cello. And really the direction for me on this piece was make it so hard that other cello players would go and watch it and go, that's amazing. And I think they accomplished it. I'm not a cello player, but I watched that end sequence. It's a 6-minute cello piece from start to beginning, from start to end. And, you know, we've gotten, when pre-COVID, when we used to show this with audiences and at Whistler or down in Louisiana, we literally would get standing ovations after the end of it. It's pretty impressive.
Can I say too, really quickly, that acting was incredibly difficult, but incredibly rewarding. And we had so much help along the way. That final performance, we weren't acting at all. That was the one time we didn't need to be sprayed with water to make it seem like we were sweating. We didn't need to feel like there was like, you know, our bones were literally seizing up through that. That was all happening for real. And not only that, we put our entire essence of being and soul into that first take of it when Warren, you said, all right, quiet on set, lights, camera, set, action. And we just dive in there because we know like this is that part of the movie that has to come off. I think we're gonna see this is behind the scenes.
You do this, stay on his face. Look to your brother. Look out to Benito. He's loving this.
So this is probably the second or third take of the day. But think of an athlete doing sprints for 6 minutes at a time, 7 times in one day. It was pretty incredible to watch.
I think we got to 8 takes total.
Yeah.
It was crazy. I think by this point you can even see that like we have no more energy. Oh, it was great though. It was great. I think I lost 5 pounds in that performance.
So this is the close-ups before we even had a crowd in there. But then we put 60 people in this room, and it was the hottest day of the summer of 2018. And we had to turn the mansion's air conditioner off because we couldn't have it playing for sound and everything. And it was hot. So
I think it was like 35 degrees.
yeah, the sweat on Max and Theo in that scene was it was real sweat. But yeah, Michelle, did you have any other questions for the boys?
Oh gosh. Well, I think I started at the beginning. Like, how did you guys all meet, and how did this come about? So that's been answered. I think it's more of a comment. I think that you guys did a great job in your first role as actors. You were totally convincing, and it felt natural. And I know you a little bit in terms of your personality, so I thought those came through. And just congratulations on a really amazing movie. And I hope there's more composition.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Michelle. And
Thanks,
Michelle, we've been with you this entire step of the way too, right? All the way back from cello extravaganzas with 100 cellos all in one room.
That was 2011. Yeah.
I guess that's a question for you, Michelle. What's it like seeing the progression of Max and Theo and like actually seeing them in what looks to be like a legit movie?
Well, so I first met them or knew of them. They performed in a fundraiser that I co-produced with Kirk Starkey, who's a cellist in Hamilton, and Rachel Mercer, who's a Canadian cellist. And we produced these fundraisers. They're called Cello Extravaganza. We were doing our 5th one, but it got canceled at the end of March. And so I think in 2011 was our first one. So you performed in that one, and then in the 3rd one. So you were young.
We were young.
9 years ago. And your teacher, Rebecca Morton, I think because we know Rebecca, got you on but you weren't just performing in the orchestra, but you were performing as a duo. So it's been fun to watch your progression to create Versacello. And, I've watched your stuff on YouTube, and obviously your concert at the Live Lab at Mac. Was that just in February? Yeah.
February 7th.
Oh, that was this February.
That was fabulous. So it's been wonderful to be a witness to
see a different side of them when they're acting in character.
And then to just know that there's just decades and decades ahead of you of growth. And so I'm a fan.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Michelle. And if you just put your camera on mute, that would be great. There's a question from Mike about, did Theo also include some electronic music? In a little bit right now. So one of my favorite pieces that I heard before we even started, and this is Theo singing. So he can do everything, basically.
Oh, Theodor also plays pretty much every instrument.
So when I heard this piece, I said, oh, this should be the love song from the movie. And like basically not only did Max and Theo write all the cello pieces, which are formidable and extraordinary, they wrote all the music cues in the movie, except for the song cues like the Arkells that we heard. We have a great band called Jane's Party. We have a great band called July Talk that they do a cello cover of Guns and Ammunition. My friend's band Peacemakers in it. And then we have, I'm sorry, maybe this might only mean something to my adult friends on the call, but the Northern Pikes, Things I Do for Money, which is one of my favorite songs, came out in 1987, which was, so the 80s was a decade prior to the 90s, prior to the aughts. So the Northern Pikes, I had done a music video for JSMCO in the 90s, the late 90s. So I knew them a little bit. And we're going to call the movie Things I Do for Money. So I literally just messaged him and I said, listen, I want to do this. It's called Things I Do for Money. You wrote one of the most iconic Canadian singles of the late 80s about things to do for money, is What Do You Think? And we worked out a deal with Universal Music to use it for the boys to sort of reinvent the cello, reinvent it for the cello. And then Jay Semko, bless his heart, re-recorded his vocals in Saskatoon and gave us his vocal track to put it over the end credits. And that's the music piece that we have at the end credits. And it's completely just for this film. But in the film, there's over 50 cues of music in the movie that Theo and Max wrote. And maybe if you could just break down for the people listening what that actually means in the workload and the challenge that you had going from just 2 cello players that would play events to suddenly having to write 50 original cues of music that aren't just cello, but like Mike is saying, it's the electronic music in the movie and everything else.
Theodore, do you want to start it off? I'm actually pulling on a calculator here because I have some numbers. I'm going to start it down.
I will start.
That's the numbers guy.
Actually, I was going to start off with a fun fact. That song you were playing, Warren.
Yeah.
I actually wrote that in math class.
Did you sing it in math class?
I'm not singing in math class. I wrote the backing part in math class, but
okay.
That was fun. But the rest of the stuff was written for the movie after it was done, of course.
Well, I think that just says that you're creating music all the time, right? You during this period and even before it, you were just making stuff, not really knowing it was going to end up in a film, but it was all cinematic.
And me and Max for sure have been making a lot of music throughout the years, but we did not have any idea about the sort of volume that we would need for this movie. Because what was it? It was the beginning of April. And you said, okay, great, you guys have the cello stuff done. Now we just need like more than 50 other cues for the rest of the entire movie. We're like, oh, that's great. That should be easy. We finished the first week and like, oh yeah, we've actually got some numbers.
I have some numbers. Turns out this calculation wasn't that hard, but bear with me. So around 50 cues. We are cellists. We've been playing cello for about 15 years. I mean, if you'll even see my setup right here, I don't really want to show because my room's messy, but I'll do a little.
It's true. I told him to clean up this dirty underwear before this started.
Literally at the keyboard right here, right now. So we would like be in this room and lock ourselves in here, and we were really working on the music for the entire ambient soundtrack from around January of the year after we finished shooting.
January 2019.
2019, yes.
Yeah.
And we needed it done for June. I think it was June 7th. And so we were like, oh, no problem. We do this stuff all the time. That's
but
fine.
you were in 4th year McMaster engineering.
Full-time students, for sure.
Right.
And so we didn't really get to work on it until end of April, beginning of May.
Wait, is your engineering dean on this call? Because maybe you don't want to be divulging this.
I'm not 100% sure. Wow,
all
it's
right,
okay.
Fine. Different faculty. It's all good. I failed Ryerson twice, so what am I saying?
And so at the beginning of May, we had 1 month to write 50 cues. Each cue, give or take, is around 2 minutes. And it's not just like you put down a melody, a little bass line and instrumentation, and then it's all figured out. Like you got to think about it every single second of the way because, the cue starts at a certain frame of the movie, and then it has to hit different cuts of the edit as you're going through to give weight to different
And
moments.
then sometimes I would change the edit and go, I'm sorry, change the scene. Here's the new scene.
That was some fantastic it too, because, it was the first time we had ever scored to a picture. And so we have like an idea and we put it together and we talk to Warren about it. Talk to Warren and Gary and get their input and feedback and say like, what's good about this? Like what can be changed? What can we do differently? And it's a constant work where I figured every minute of music takes about 1 hour to produce on our end. And that's even before we give it to Byron Wong, who is a music producer. So we had about 50 songs, 2 minutes each around. That's 100 tracks. It was about 100 hours worth of music writing in the month of May. And we didn't step outside for that month because the timeline kept on getting shorter and shorter. And we realized, like with 1 week left, we had another 30 songs. And this one large sheet that's like green, it's highlighted green if we finished it, orange to make corrections, and like blank if we haven't started it yet.
Or red. It was red, but it's like, you gotta get this shit done, man. Yeah. Red.
Yeah, and that doc kept on getting more and more red, and maybe a couple of days left, and we still have 10 to go. and we fought, like we got it done, and I think even Warren, it was fantastic in your direction as we were moving through, because we got more and more comfortable with the idea.
I think the only thing I said at the very beginning when you first handed in the first couple cues were the melodies were great. The song, was a song, but my only thing was you have to watch what's happening in the scene more. So if there's a motion, or if there's a cut, or if there's an action a character's doing, accent that musically with the piece. And I just said that once, and then it just, all the pieces got progressively more focused and really in sync with what was happening with the picture. And the learning curve must have been really great, like just such a high curve for you to try to learn this on the fly, right?
And every once in a while, every couple of days, we do a conference call with you, Warren, and Theodor and me. You are on the phone, and we're waiting to hear back about 4 or 5 cues that we've submitted. And sometimes it's like, that's great, this could use some work, but we're always waiting for that, like, that was sick, like cue. And sometimes we get that, like, that was a badass cue, and we feel so good about ourselves.
The Red Room coup. So for those that saw the movie, there's this sequence we call the Red Room, where Max's character goes in, and Nick
has a party,
is being seduced by the criminal underworld of Hamilton in this small back room of This Ain't Hollywood, which is now unfortunately closed. But it was really nice to document that space before it sort of ended, because it's such a great live venue, and kind of, everybody knows it in Hamilton. But yeah, this whole Red Room scene, and basically I said to Max and Theo, like, I need a piece of music to show, Nick being seduced by the dark side, the side of criminals that have drinks and all the other stuff that his character's being sort of tempted with. And when you sent me that track, I gave you a couple notes, and you sent me back the revision, and I'm like, that was sick.
I remember being in the mixing room in Toronto with that track too, and the mixing artists were just cranking it up.
Oh, the bass in that is, I really do hope one day we get to see it in a theater, because especially the pop songs that you wrote, like the Red Room scene, or the Sitting in Your Car, which is the sort of pseudo love theme for Eli and Laura. The bass is so cranked, it's like it's a banging tune. So I hope we get to hear that live. We have about 10-15 minutes left, and I'm going to I have a bunch of questions that I've always wanted to ask the boys, but does anybody have anything they want to ask? Maybe Jessica or Kishida?
I have one last question.
Yeah.
For you, Warren. Where do I get one of those posters behind you? Can I get it shipped to my house? Seriously.
It's so funny. Every time we do these Zooms, we get asked about merch. And like, we just we can't afford it. It's like, we just don't do it.
Warren.
I know. We'll figure it out. I mean,
keep me updated.
Yeah, we'll get something made at some point. I can send you the digital file and get it printed.
Yeah.
I'm down.
I would love that. Yeah, that'd be super cool.
Well, Max has it, so he can get it to you.
Okay, perfect.
It's about.
Thank you.
I mean, if you do it en masse, they're about $30 each, $40 each.
Mm-hmm.
But I just there's no market in me making them and then selling them for like $50. Like, it's more like, if you want to make it, go ahead, here's the file.
Unless it's in the campus store, that's not a bad idea. Put some merch in the campus store.
It's so funny. This whole thing, it's ironic. It's called Things I Do for Money, because it's now things I do for no money. I mean, it really is not about the money anymore. And really, the whole message of the movie is, it's not about money. It's about your brother. It's about family.
It's about family.
It should be called Things to Do for Family. Mm-hmm. So if I was a younger man and more industrious, I would probably, we'd sell T-shirts, we'd sell merch, we're definitely going to sell DVDs. We're putting DVDs together, because we have so many, like on my phone, we have so many of these behind the scenes stuff we want to put together. And definitely we want to sell the soundtrack. And that's coming, that will all be coming out in the fall and winter. Because we want to get the music out, right? If there's anything that I want the world to know about this movie, is about the music that Max and Theo created for it. So
Mm-hmm.
merch, selling at the campus store. Yeah, maybe if I was 22 again and I needed some scratch, I would get into that. But the most important thing right now is to get the digital release out, get ready. We're still creating the DVD. It's going to be spectacular. And then the boys just finished the soundtrack stuff that Byron Wong is going to be mixing, and we're going to get that in the fall. So it's all coming. It's all coming. Jessica, you've been online. I don't know if you have any questions for the boys, but you're next on my Zoom.
Yeah. Well, actually, just like for all three of you, I guess, I know it's kind of a basic question, but what was your favorite scene or like part of the movie to shoot and to direct? Like, which kind of like brought you the most joy to film or see on film after it was done, I guess?
That's a great question. Theo, why don't you go first?
For me, it was actually filming on that one rooftop. I don't know where it was. I forget like what building it actually was, but it was like somewhere in downtown.
With the graffiti on the wall?
The graffiti on the wall.
All I know is that it backed into a back alley, and across the back alley was this, it was like an Asian hot pot restaurant that said they were going to do lunch for us. And the day of decided they weren't going to do lunch for us. And we were just scrambling to find a place to feed the crew. That's all I remember about that day. But yeah,
wow.
it was downtown, Theo.
It was cool to see, because I've never seen downtown Hamilton from that perspective, even though I like lived all around there for my entire life. And it was cool to see it from kind of seeing the size skyscrapers as equals rather than as giants.
And there's a whole other deleted scene we shot there, Jessica, with Theo and then Yodit Tuaderos, who plays Laura. They have this sort of nice heart-to-heart scene, which is really beautiful. It's just we took it out. The first cut of the movie was about 2 hours long, so we've taken out half an hour's worth of scenes and stuff just to tighten everything. But that will be in the DVD deleted scenes. But I think you also probably really liked doing that scene too, Theo, because it was a different take on your relationship.
It was definitely the most I thought heartfelt moment for me speaking, because it's me being very vulnerable and open to someone who's basically a stranger at that point of the script, and it was a really interesting vibe.
Maximilian, your favorite scene or the scene that surprised you when you finally saw the movie?
I think that definitely for something that was almost like a touching experience for me, the very last scene in the movie, which is when we're in the car. And Theo's driving and I'm kind of in the passenger seat. It comes off as very, very, almost like a tranquil denouement, these two brothers sharing a moment as they're on their way to pursue their passion and their dreams. But I remember filming that, and we started off in a parking lot with this huge cinema camera rig right on the hood of the car. So we're in the front seats, and half of the view is this huge camera looking right back at you, which is being remote controlled from a pickup car that's right in front of us with Warren and Christoph, who's the director of photography, and some of the crew. And we're just up in Ancaster,
Fiddler's Green,
Fiddler's Green Road. So we're kind of driving at 60 down this road that really is an 80 road, 80 kilometers per hour. And we have Warren's car in front, and they're doing like the remote control camera. So like we're just driving. We see the camera pan to like Theo, and then back to me, and back to Theo, and it's like 1984 almost moment. And we're kind of seeing our lines.
All the while you just had your learner's license, didn't you? Or
I didn't know if you were allowed to say that on camera, but yes, I had a G1.
Oh, G1. Oh no.
Yeah.
I was G1 too, yeah.
So we were thinking, okay, if we get pulled over, I mean, we have Warren, Peace, and Noda in front of us. He's gonna get us out of this one for sure. And even this whole time, like we're driving fairly slow for the road, and you got these guys that are behind us honking, and they kind of like they swerve out of this one lane road to pass us and just flip us off as we're going by. And we're like, guys, we're
it was very safe. It was very safe, but I mean, he had to deal. Here's a little. How can I do this? He had to deal with this on the front of the car.
There it is.
Oh, that's massive.
And it's such a cool setup, and it moves with remote control.
Yeah, it was a robotic head that.
And they built that, right?
Yeah, and all Max was saying is, it's worth $100,000. Don't crash the car.
I know. we could not deal with any kind of enforcement on that.
But that scene was the movie, really. I mean, the reason why Gary and I decided to write. We could have ended this movie a bunch of, especially since we do this big twist that we can't say because Gina, the assistant dean, hasn't seen the movie yet, and we don't want to spoil it for her. But there's this twist at the end, and we could have just ended it there because it's kind of a perfect ending to the film. But really, the script that we wrote was about the brothers, and it was about why did you do all this, and it was the crystallization of motive at that time. And yeah, Max, I think you both really did it. Do you remember saying those lines?
I something I remember that was really interesting was that was one of the only kind of segments, those 30 seconds, the last 30 seconds of what people watch on the film was mostly kind of just improvised by either Warren, Gary, myself, or Theo that day, right?
Yeah, because I'd be on the
changed so much.
I'd be on the cell phone going, okay, say this. Okay,
Yeah.
no, longer pause.
Like, wait,
okay.
that did not work. Try it again.
No, look out the window after you say that.
Yeah, and even say like we're going to Banff, right? You see the mountains in the distance. So Warren's like, look at the mountains. The mountains are beautiful. Look at the mountains, and we're just looking up like just blank sky. Like,
And all the while, I'm just like staring there with like my G1, like.
yeah, and as stressed as Theodore looks when he's driving, like that's just him driving. That's not fake or anything. That's just Theodore driving on a regular day.
It's the perfect way to find motivation for the scene.
That's true.
The scene that I really love in the movie, but it was a hard scene to shoot, was the bingo scene, which happens halfway through the movie, and it's the first time we really pull back the curtain to what Hamilton is all about and who's actually controlling and pulling the strings in Hamilton. And it's shot at a senior's residence in downtown, and I don't know how we got it. We have an amazing locations manager, Kelly Carney, and Josh Airy. And Kelly came on first, and she got all these amazing locations, and Josh then took over the role of doing it. But somehow they convinced the senior center to allow us to come shoot if the seniors could play bingo. So and there's like 50 bingo players in the scene, which if this is a non-union low budget movie, but if this, I'm doing Murdoch Mysteries right now, and if I was going to do a scene with like 50 or 60 bingo players, that's a lot of money, right, to get that many people in there. So big production value, but these seniors thought they were going to play bingo. So we start filming, and as you film, you do the scene over and over and over again. And literally at one of the tables, I hear one of the lovely people playing bingo go, "They keep saying the same numbers. What is this?" And not only that, so the main bingo table that Brenda, played by Colette Zaka, who's our amazing actor. She's actually from the UK. She plays Brenda, who's a kingpin, but she's like a granny kingpin that's in a wheelchair, and she runs Hamilton. And she's an amazing actor. We have Ariel Rogers, who's a veteran Hamiltonian actor. But then I have my dad at the table, and like Emily Andrews' mom at the table, the producer Emily Andrews, and her mom's at the table. Jen Pogue's mom, my wife, who also produced, is the bingo caller. And then I have Jeremy Lalonde, who's like one of the top directors in Canada. He's directed for Baroness von Sketch, and he just had a new movie, James versus His Future Self. He plays the bingo caller Bill. So I had this whole arrangement of like really great actors, pseudo actors, non-actors, and my dad, who just couldn't get his lines right and say the lines to the right people. And I don't want to throw my dad under the bus, but the very first take of that scene was 25 minutes. It was a 25-minute take for a 2-minute scene. And I literally thought I was never going to get out of that bingo hall. And it was supposedly supposed to be one of the most easiest scenes, even though there's a lot of dialogue and a lot of people talking. But this is the surrealness of shooting in a bingo hall, or shooting in a seniors center, their cafeteria, with 50 or 60 seniors thinking they're actually playing bingo, wanting to know if they're going to win anything. And then this one table where they couldn't figure out the handle of the scene. But when I see the scene, and Michelle, Jessica, you were asking about a scene that really surprised me. I'm surprised at how well that scene works. And a lot of it has to do with Anna Catley, who is the amazing editor on it. And also the actors, all the actors, even my dad. I mean, my dad tried really hard, and I think we were able to get a great performance out of all of them to make a pretty unique scene in a crime movie. So I was particularly proud of that.
And just quick before at the beginning of the call, you said that this was the first film by a Japanese director, Japanese Canadian, starring 4 Japanese Canadian actors as well. Was that what you said?
Yeah.
Just wanted to make sure. That's crazy. That's amazing.
I mean, it could be. I mean, we don't have stats on this, but and I've talked to friends at the Japanese cultural centers and just in the Japanese community itself. And I mean, there's not a lot of Japanese Canadian directors to begin with. There's like me and my friend Randall Akita. There's some amazing documentarians, but when it comes to genre movies, like horror films or crime films, I mean, we've never inhabited those spaces. And I think that's why it's important to make genre films like Things I Do for Money, because it's just so easy to let the mainstream filmmakers just dominate that space. And I'm not comparing what we made to what Scorsese does or Tarantino or the Coen brothers. I love Fargo. We just got CTV Your Morning just compared us to Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels, but in Hamilton, which I'll take as a compliment. But I think the more that we're able to tell stories that, we don't always have to tell the story of who we are, of our heritage. We can just tell a crime movie, or we can just have a romantic comedy, or with Get Out, you can just make a horror movie, but have, political and subversive elements to it. I think that's just as important as making hard-hitting dramas and documentaries, which I think the BIPOC community has done really well. But in the Japanese Canadian community especially, I'm a narrative director, and I just want to see more of us tell stories that we want to. And I literally just made a movie for my brothers, because my brothers dig this type of movie, like a bad guy, good guy, shoot 'em up movie. And my mom and dad like the cello playing, so I kind of made it for my family.
Yeah, that's amazing. Congratulations.
Thank you so much, Jessica. Rachel, it's been awesome to have this opportunity to talk to your students and to some of your faculty. And thank you for arranging this and getting the movie out to them to see. I hope everybody enjoyed it. And if you did enjoy it, if you could leave a little review or rating on IMDb or iTunes, because it really does help us get the word out and to make it look like people are having fun watching it. If you did have fun, please do that. But Theo, Max, in conclusion, in terms of what was the biggest thing you learned in the process of making this movie? Not just as actors or as composers, but just what was your big takeaway doing this sort of thing? Because you've never done it before.
You're on there.
Oh man, let me take the first blow. Okay. I gotta say, the one thing I learned from it is how much I rely on Max whenever we're doing a project. Every day he was, for all of July before we were shooting, every day we were throwing around a frisbee. He was listening to my woes about, oh, I'm not going to be good. They're going to hate me. It's going to be awful. It's like, no, man, just chill. Just work on the lines. I got you. And we made it through together. And I thought that was awesome.
Oh, Max, you can't say the same thing.
I will say the same thing, but it's 100% true. And even though I will preface, even though that Theo says that, there's so much that I learned from him in terms of him, the amount of dedication and hard work he put in to the movie, especially being top billed cast. And I will also say that before this movie, when we were doing our own thing and you know, playing at our own gigs and just local fun things.
Things for McMaster.
Things for McMaster, for sure.
Yeah.
Things for Westdale, all back in the community. The most fun I've ever had working in the arts and kind of being part of the arts was kind of being able to perform for people and for people to experience like what we love to create, which is definitely something that I'm loving about right now. And people are able to see how much work I put in for the past 2 years. But now I know that the thing I love most about the arts is working with other people who are even more passionate and even more dedicated. And everyone is there. Like you said, it's not things I do for money, it's things I do for family. The things I do for money, cast and crew, became a family through this whole thing. And that was so special to have. And even just, we were talking about this before the movie got released, just the fact that we were able to be a part of something so special was the reward in itself. And now it's like cherry on top. That's out.
I had a feeling you both would say something like that, especially about you two being brothers that really not just work well with each other, but just you have each other's back, and it was really great to see. What I learned is that to be successful in whatever you do, especially, so I'm a filmmaker, for me to be successful is you surround yourself with the very best people. You give them all the resources and encouragement, and you let them kind of go for it. And the thing that I took away from this is, you know, no one asked me to make this movie. No one called me up and said, Warren, what we really need is a Japanese-Canadian cello-playing brother crime movie from Hamilton with bingo players that run the city's crime underworld. I never got that call, but it was something that we had a vision for, and we collectively got together, and we got the right people to buy into it. And whatever you do at McMaster, whatever, you know, I'm not quite sure all the faculties that are on this Zoom right now, but don't underestimate the power of a good idea, because if you get the right people to buy into that, that's when real magic happens. That's when you become innovative, especially with engineering. It's when you become sort of a leader. And it's when you create something that's never been created before. And I think we were able to do that. You know, whether you like the movie, you hate the movie, you have problems with the movie, or you absolutely just love it. It's a movie that just no one's seen anything like it. And I'm very proud of that. So thank you for this opportunity, McMaster. Please, if you did like the movie, tell people. We want other people to see it. Max and Theo, go to sleep. It's past your bedtime. No, it's not. It's 9:30. It's past my bedtime.
Been a big day. Been a big day for sure.
But thank you very much, everybody. And Rachel, I don't know if you have anything else to say.
No, I just want to thank you for spending some time with us. I think this has been a really fun hour and a half. And so thank you, Warren, Theodore, and Maximilian. And yeah, I guess thank you for joining us as well, all of our participants, and have a great night.
Thank you. And we will be posting this probably on the Things to Do for Money Facebook page if you want to check it out later. And we'll leave you with a little bit of ominous cello music as we say goodbye. Thank you, everybody. Have a good night.